Why Dubai is not Beirut? The comparison that sounds right and isn't? Someone is going to send you a message this week that says, "Remember Beirut?" Lebanon said the same thing about Beirut before it collapsed. I understand why people say that, but I want you to be able to answer that, not to win an argument, because the truth of why that comparison fails actually matters for your decision what Beirut actually had Lebanon in 1970. Banking hub of the Middle East, luxury real estate, real wealth. Then came 50 years of civil war from 1975.
Lebanon's history in the second half of the 20th century is particularly tragic. It went from being a prosperous tourist hotspot to a war-torn country that was destroyed by sectarian tensions amongst its many peoples.
Then 2006, then 2019 financial collapse, then the port explosion in 2020. So why did Beirut collapse permanently instead of recovering like Kuwait, Frankfurt or Singapore? 5 reasons, all structural, all specific. Difference 1. No sovereign backstop. Lebanon's central bank operated on a Ponzi scheme of high interest deposits.
The banking system collapsed. Investors in dollars fled the country. Inflation rose to higher than 140%.
When confidence broke, there was no institutional buyer of last resort. Nothing to arrest the fall. The UAE has $2.49 trillion in sovereign wealth. That is not a metaphor. That is the actual number. It is the single largest difference between these two situations. And it is not close. Difference 2. No dollar peg. The Lebanese pound collapsed, lost 90% of its value. Savings were wiped out.
Just imagine, back in the days of our former Prime Minister, who the government now calls incompetent, this bag of rice cost £2,500. Today it's 7 times that. How's that supposed to work? How are poor people in this country supposed to eat?
The UAE dirham has been pegged to the US dollar since 1997. It cannot collapse unless the US dollar collapses. These are completely different currency risk profiles, not comparable. And here is what most investors miss about that peg. When the world panics and capital flees to the dollar, your Dubai property is automatically denominated in that safety currency. You get the flight to safety premium built into the asset class. Difference 3. No military alliance. Lebanon had no serious international military backstop. The UAE hosts US military presence at Al Dhafra Air Base. 5,000 US military personnel. F-35, F-22, B-52 bombers. When Iran attacked UAE soil this week, the US sank 6 Iranian fast boats. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer personally condemned the attack and said, "We stand in solidarity with the UAE." Differences 4 and 5. Government and economy. Lebanon had 80 official recognized religious sects, each with effective veto power. Government decisions took months, years, sometimes never. The UAE makes 50-year infrastructure commitments and funds them with sovereign capital. And Lebanon's economy was entirely dependent on remittance and tourism, both decimated by conflict. UAE non-oil sector now represent over 70% of GDP, spanning technology, finance, logistics, tourism, and manufacturing. The economic shock channels are fundamentally different. London 1940, the correct historical parallel is not Beirut. It is London during the Blitz. The German Air Force bombed London for 57 consecutive nights. The financial districts specifically targeted. Buildings burned. Banks operated from basements. And yet, London prime property did not collapse permanently because London had the Bank of England, sovereign resources, an institutional financial system, a unified government, a military alliance. Today, London is the most expensive real estate market in Europe. The Blitz is irrelevant to the pricing. The UAE has more institutional infrastructure in 2026 than London had in 1940. That is the perfect parallel. If the Beirut comparison has been making you anxious about your position, Or if a friend or a family member has raised it and you want the full picture to think it through, this is exactly the kind of conversation I have with investor in person. No pressure, no agenda, just clarity. You know where to find me. I don't sell property, I sell clarity. If you want brutal honesty, real data, and someone who has been inside this market for 20 years, you know where to find me.